Welcome to the Backlot 605 podcast, live from SiouxperCon. I am your host, Casey Kelderman. I am the host of the Backlot 605 podcast. Let me introduce my panelists with me today. First off, Blake Ginithan. He is also from Backlot 605.
What up?
Yeah. What up? And we also are joined by Andy from Fat Dude Digs Flicks.
Listen, I have spent this entire week trash-talking Billy Gunn on Twitter with hopes that he would show up to talk movies with us. I don't see Billy Gunn here, so I just have to say, Bart Gunn would have showed up, Road Dogg would have showed up, but Billy Gunn did not show up. So we're going to talk movies, guys, and I got Sacco just in case Billy Gunn peeks in late. Let's do this, guys.
Thank you, Andy. And we are also joined by the crew from Wednesday Comics, Marvin.
My name is Marvin.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about Nick Cage tonight, so I'm glad you guys stopped by.
Yes.
I'm making a bracket right now. So.
There we go. Don't worry. Garrett.
Hello.
And Alex.
Hello, everybody.
And thank you all for being here, first of all. This is awesome to see everyone here. We are going to be doing a 16-movie comic book bracket. The way that these are set up is a combination from their scores on Rotten Tomatoes. So we're doing audience scores as well as critic scores. So that is how these are ranked. And we only have an hour to do this, so let's just jump right into it. Number 1 seed versus the 16 seed is our beginning here. Number 1 seed, The Dark Knight. Number 16 seed, X-Men 2, X-Men United. So the way this is going to work, we're just going to start. We'll start with Andy this time, work our way down. And if there's a unanimous choice between all of us, that pick will move on. If we're split down the middle, 3 and 3, we're going to kick it off to you guys in the audience to help us decide. So, Andy, if you want to kick this off, what is your pick for this first?
So because we're on such a time constraint, I can't go off on long-winded tangents, but I'm still already starting with one. The Dark Knight is my favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time, let alone one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I just think this is an excellent crime drama, as well as a comic book film. This is my pick. This is a quintessential Heath Ledger performance as the Joker. I love this movie. And that's not to say that X2 is not good, because, man, it was super cool to finally see Nightcrawler on screen. But The Dark Knight has it for me.
I think both these movies are great, but I think The Dark Knight is way better.
I myself am also going to go Dark Knight. I do think it is one of the best comic book movies of all time. X-Men 2, I think, like Andy said, Nightcrawler is the best part of that movie. And I like how it delves back into Wolverine's origins in the best way possible. But The Dark Knight is one of the best comic book films and one of the best films in the last 20 years. So Dark Knight for the win.
Well, Casey, before we keep going, can I say something real quick?
Of course.
Do we want that, if things get a little touchy for the audience to just kind of be like, yeah, or boo, like feel free to kind of,
treat it like a pro wrestling event. Yes.
Like, it'll come down to the vote, of course, for you guys. But man, if
You're talking about
and
like
this
Price
is
is
after
Right
hours,
style?
so
Are you
if
trying
you
to give me
think
the price?
if you think we've got a shitty opinion,
Okay.
like feel free to boo us or cheer us, like. That's fine. I think that adds to the fun to make this more of a communal experience, because usually it's just us sitting in a room talking to each other for a podcast. And now we're talking to everybody. So, chime in, but we only got an hour, so chime in shortly.
My answer to your question, The Dark Knight versus X2, X-Men United. First off, X2, X-Men United. It's a long title. So, Dark Knight, it gets to the point. I don't know if I agree if it's one of the best movies ever, but in terms of comic movies, it certainly is up there, so that's what I'll go with. And by the way, actually, before we move on here, I came up with 16 Nick Cage movies for the next bracket.
Yes.
So I got it down.
Yes.
I would give it to The Dark Knight. One of the best Batman movies, let alone one of the best crime movies in probably the last 10 years. I mean, it's probably been almost 10 years, hasn't it?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Yes.
Jeez. Yeah. Wow, that's dated. But I remember watching that movie about 100 times in a row. So it's
I think you said 11 years.
Damn, that's a lot.
11 years?
2008.
11 years. Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, Dark Knight. X2 was the best X-Men film.
Agreed.
Maybe. But X-Men 2 was probably the best X-Men movie, but Dark Knight's way better.
Excuse me, not X-Men 2, X2.
X2, X-Men United, you mean, Marvin?
Yeah.
Is it X2 or X-Men 2?
X2, X-Men United.
X-Men United.
Oh, you know what? Just because I want to be different than everybody else, I'm actually going to say X2, X-Men United is the number one. One, it's the best Wolverine movie where you watch him take out like 20 soldiers, stab them right in the chest.
First
right
off,
in
I
the foot.
know that's not true. That's not your choice, and you're just doing that to be contradictory.
You heard everybody boo. I'm making sure they can do it.
And I thought that Blake was our contrarian here. I like this. This is going to be fun.
Just wait. I got some bombs coming up.
Alex, your choice doesn't matter anyway because Dark Knight wins. So Dark Knight is moving on.
That's what we call democracy.
Yes. All right, the number 8 pick, Big Hero 6 versus the number 9, Logan. We'll start off with Blake this time.
Yeah, I really like both of these movies, but Logan, I think, will stand the test of time. It kind of transcends the comic book genre and is almost a western in a way, and I think it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I am also going to go with Logan. It was nominated for an Oscar for a reason. I don't think it is the best Wolverine movie. That one's not even on the list for me. Yeah. The Wolverine is better. Yes. Yeah.
Jeez.
X-Men Origins Wolverine?
Yes, that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
No, I'll go with Logan for this one.
Was Logan nominated for an Oscar? For what?
Best adapted screenplay.
Oh, yeah, that's
Big
right.
Hero 6 won an Oscar, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I saw a different movie than you guys. Big Hero 6, I don't think is that good, so
Oh, come on,
I'm
man.
going to go with Logan.
Big
Logan.
Hero 6 is the best.
I don't know about that. It's certainly they make a sequel, so.
They didn't make a
They made
sequel
a
for
TV
Logan,
show.
though, either.
That's because he died. You can't do it.
Yeah,
No,
the sequel
spoilers.
was-
Spoiler.
Spoiler for that one.
Already seen it. Don't worry.
All right.
I'm going to go with Logan. Probably one of the best swan songs that Hugh Jackman could ever perform. I
No,
mean,
he's a Wolverine, not a Swan.
well, you know, unless he ever comes back in Avengers or whatnot, which probably will never happen. Logan was like great ending to his portrayal as Wolverine. But Big Hero 6 tried a lot for being a first Marvel animated movie. I mean, that's not right, but adapted graphic novel, maybe, kind of. But yeah, Logan.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm going to go with Logan. I'm going to save some time. Big Hero 6 is fine, but Logan's a much better choice. For a rated R movie that we finally got to see Wolverine do what he's best at, that's all we needed.
I thought about playing the contrarian card here as well, just because it sounded like the fun thing to do. But I'm going to go with Logan. I love Big Hero 6. I really think it's fantastic, but I'm a big softie for stuff like that. But Logan is, I think that's great storytelling and really great central performance by Hugh Jackman. So, yeah, I will also vote for Logan.
All right, so Logan will move on. All right, so number 4
Thank
pick,
you.
Captain America, the Winter Soldier, versus the number 13, Wonder Woman. Just because I don't want to go first, I'm going to let Marvin go first.
I got a question here. These numbers next to which one's the audience ranking? The left or the right one?
The right one.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
You know, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is one of my favorite movies, and so I gotta go there. But I'm also thinking, I'm looking at the rest of this list. Hey, hold up a second here. I'm looking at the rest of this list, and if I knock Wonder Woman out, that's it for DC.
Good, get it out of here.
I mean,
No, Dark Knight is still on here.
CC.
well, I mean, come on. I'm talking about like post that movie. I did see Wonder Woman over there though, so we're gonna go with Captain America. It's my favorite. So, Cap. I already moved it on. So.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I think the best Captain America movie out there. Wonder Woman was really great though, in that scene where she like stumbles into the
No Man's Land
No
scene.
Man's
Yep.
Land scene is amazing. So it's a tough contender, but Captain America: The Winter Soldier is just amazing. So
Before you move on here, I do see it's called Captain American on this sheet. And so,
Typo. Oh, no.
this is a different movie.
It is.
I haven't seen this version. So.
This is the 90s version.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it still beats.
So I'm going to save some time. Yes, Wonder Woman is great, but in all my time doing our show, Wednesday Comics, the only movie I've ever talked about consistently is Captain America Winter Soldier, the best MCU movie made.
He's not wrong. With Fat Dude Digs Flicks, I do grade movies on a taco scale, and the movies that are the best of the best get what I call the golden avocado. Captain America Winter Soldier is one of very few, well, actually it's like one of two movies in the MCU that I have given that golden avocado to. So yeah, Captain America Winter Soldier. I liked Wonder Woman. I don't think it was the movie that I was really hoping it would be, but that No Man's Land scene is fantastic. I think it kind of loses itself in CGI effects near the end, which is a big problem in a lot of the DC universe, DC EU movies. But Captain America Winter Soldier, one of the best political thrillers in a superhero movie form. Captain America, Winter
I
Soldier.
got two questions based on what you just said. One, you ever think about calling that award the Holy Guacamole instead?
That's a much better title. It's
Yeah.
a much better title.
And two is the other MCU movie Thor 2 because
It is not.
okay.
It is not. So you know.
You
where
obviously
that
don't
stands.
appreciate Kat Dennings like I do.
Oh, I think Thor.
Let's move on, Andy. We got to keep it moving.
Yeah, I'll stop talking.
I sort of hated Wonder Woman, and Captain America is my favorite MCU character, so I'm going with Captain America.
I'm going to go with Captain America Winter Soldier, clean sweep. Wonder Woman, third act, falls apart completely. And besides the No Man's Land scene, that's about all that movie has for me. And Winter Soldier is a perfect political thriller action film from the guys that brought us Yumi and Dupree. So I can appreciate that.
And I think Marley and Me, right?
No.
No. Well,
that's just the Owen Wilson
That's a different
connection.
movie
Yes.
theme, yeah.
So Captain America, the Winter Soldier, moves on.
Did you already say Captain America?
Captain
Captain
American.
America.
Okay.
All right, next one we got here, number 5 seed, Avengers Endgame versus the number 12, 300. So Garrett, I'm going to kick it off to you.
God, this is a really hard one because love 300. Avengers Endgame is pretty recent, and that was a great film. When you're dealing with time travel, there are a lot of things in your head that you're like, I don't know, but
Responsibilities that you know.
what?
The responsibilities that you have to deal with.
Yeah, right. There's a lot to cover in 3 hours. Right. Gosh, this is tough. I'm gonna go with my gut and just go Avengers Endgame. Like I love 300 like so much, and so I haven't found a scene in that movie I don't like. But Avengers Endgame was 10 years of payoff, so Avengers Endgame.
I would say 300 for the fact I wish I worked out as hard as those guys did for that movie. But I think if I didn't say Endgame, I'm selling that movie short for everything that it has given us the last 10 years of movies that have come out. And to literally live up to the title of an Endgame for some of these characters is something that we can't go back on now. We're finally moving towards Phase 4, so Endgame is the winner.
Okay. I'm going to vote for Avengers Endgame as well. This is a difficult a little matchup for me. Not the way you would think, because honestly, I don't love either of these movies. I think that Endgame is great for what it is as a whole, for the whole picture, but as a movie on its own, I don't love it as much as I think I should. And 300 is fun, but the blood disappears. Like, you keep watching the scenes and the blood just goes poof into thin air. But yeah, I think 300 looks like, maybe I'll change my vote. Oh. I think 300 looks like a really cool visual, like video comic book. And right, it looks, yeah. So, you know what? Let's do it. I'll play contrarian.
300?
I'm your Huckleberry.
All right,
300.
all right. Blake?
I sort of hated both of these movies.
Get out of here then. Get out of here.
300 is like this big, like frat boy macho movie, and I thought Endgame was so boring. God, I feel like 300 accomplished more than what it set out to do, so I'm picking 300.
All right.
Sorry. I know we got to keep moving, but it's fun to kind of like, I think you can kind of see how we've divided this. I mean, it's clear. Like we're the movie. Like, and we're going to talk. And I think the Wednesday Comics guys, you totally appreciate these movies from a cinematic point of view as well, which I think is really awesome. But I think it's kind of funny just to kind of listen to where each group is kind of coming from with these, where it's like, we've got the movie nerds over here and the comic book geeks over on that side. So, and I mean those terms with complete affection because that's how we live our life. But it's just fun to listen to everybody, how we kind of work through our thoughts on these things because we each come from different perspectives. All right, that's all I'm going to say.
So I think Avengers Endgame is a perfect conclusion to this MCU saga that they have built up for the last decade. But as a film by itself, it doesn't hold a candle to other movies on this list. So that's where my divide is coming. I think of 300 is kind of a mishmash of it's a really cool visual movie, but besides that, like I think Andy mentioned, the blood just kind of disappears partway through it, and I do think it is Zack Snyder's best movie. And but as a film, just by itself, singular, I'm going to go with 300. I think it is a better film overall from beginning to end compared to Avengers Endgame. So, Marvin, you have the final choice.
So, at the beginning of this, I thought this was going to go one way, and it came out the other way. I was going to say the same thing you guys said. Endgame is good because of everything before it. It is not good on its own. Like, if you just saw that movie and you're seeing the rest of it, then it makes sense. So 300 is, as a complete movie, because that's what this is about,
Yep.
Right? It is the better movie, and so I'll pick 300.
So you're going with 300. Yep. So 300 upsets Avengers Endgame.
On this sheet,
Disrespect Tony Stark.
on this sheet it says the audience score is 60, and I feel like that's been tainted over time. Yeah. At the time, people loved this movie. There's no way it was 60.
Yeah. All right, so 300. We'll move on over Endgame. All right, we got our number 2 seed, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, versus the number 15, Doctor Strange. So, Alex, you can go first.
So when I first
Let's
did
just
my
make
show
this
with
round
you
quick,
guys,
though,
and
Alex.
I talked about that I hadn't seen this movie. Giving two shits about it. Then it turned out that I watched it, and Into the Spider-Verse really was one of the better Spider-Man movies I've ever seen. Sure, Doctor Strange has got some fun things. Other than the Dormammu, I came to make a bargain. There's not a whole lot that sticks out. Where when I think of Spider-Man Into the Universe or Into the Spider-Verse, there's much more to pull from it, much more things to see Sony do, and to see them succeed as a Spider-Man movie, I'd have to give them the win.
All right, Andy?
This was my number 2 movie of the year last year. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is fantastic. Representation, pop art, like this isn't just a great comic book movie. This is an excellent animated film. I think this movie is one of those that will go down. I'll say it, I don't care. This is a movie that'll go down in history as something that's really spectacular. I think they're great characters. Like I said, just the different combination of animation that they use in this movie, really spectacular. Easy vote for me, Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man.
That's it? All right. Yeah, I think Doctor Strange has a really cool visual look to it. I feel there was a lot more to go into the Doctor Strange character, which he improves on a lot more in Infinity War and Endgame, the little bit that he has in both of those. But Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite Spider-Man movie besides Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, which is not on this list, unfortunately. But Into the Spider-Verse, like Andy said, was his second favorite. It was my favorite of that year, and I do think it's one of the best animated films of the last decade. It has so much heart, so much character to it, and the animation styles all meld together, and it has Nicolas Cage in it, so it has to move on.
It didn't make the 16,
but you need to fix your 16.
Well, no, I had to fit Room for Vampire's Kiss on here, so it couldn't fit. Spider-Man. In terms of what it did for an animated film, like it looks as close to a comic you could probably in an animated form, and like you said, Nick Cage. So what are we talking about here? Yeah. So Spider-Man.
Spider-Man and Spider-Verse, 100%. On comic book side, I mean, you got your Ultimate Universe introduction to Miles Morales. You got your Green Goblin, your Prowler, and like the soundtrack in that movie is incredible. Probably one of the best animated soundtracks I've ever heard. Doctor Strange was good, but I did not enjoy it thoroughly as much as I did Spider-Man.
All right, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, clean sweep. All right, so the number 7 seed, The Avengers, versus the number 10 seed, Deadpool. So I'll kick this one off since I haven't started. The Avengers, I have seen more than any other movie in the MCU. It is a perfect comic book style film. It is so easy to watch. It's so easy to digest. The dialogue, the banter between all the characters is fantastic. Loki is a really fun villain. And but Deadpool, on the other hand, perfectly encapsulates that character. Ryan Reynolds just owns that role. The comedy, even the romantic aspect of Ryan Reynolds and yes, it is great. It lacks a little bit in the villain side, but who cares? It's Deadpool. And the opening credits of Deadpool are one of the best things ever to put on a comic book film. So.
Especially that pause one,
Yep.
where he just like pauses at the one moment where he's just flipping over a car or something.
Yeah, and there's even a Green Lantern reference. So Deadpool for the win for me. Marvin?
Deadpool's not a good movie. Avengers.
Oh, wow. We actually did a rewatch of Avengers about a year ago, and what I didn't realize is that there's so much exposition in the Avengers that the last 30 minutes is great. It's probably the best battle in the movie ever, but the first half or first 2/3 of the movie, so boring. Like so much exposition. So Deadpool, entertained the entire time, laughing the entire time. Deadpool.
So now I would say Deadpool, and it's not even to be different from anybody else. It's the fact that Avengers, this is the first time you actually get to see the MCU put together more than just a single character in a movie. And to see that accomplishment and to know that 7 years later we're going to get more movies that bring more heroes together and that much more focus on this world, I'd have to give it to Avengers. They've shown that you can take one idea and bring it all together.
These last 3 that I'm not going to give away are really difficult, and this is a good one to kind of start that off. Oh man, yeah, I think I'm gonna vote for the Avengers. I really enjoy Joss Whedon as a writer, and I think his script is a lot of fun. I do agree that a large portion of this film is a huge exposition dump, which is really unfortunate because they had like 6 movies beforehand to kind of set everything up. But that last sequence is a lot of fun, and man, there are some really cool visuals in this movie that are just like the kind of thing you want on a piece of art on your wall, and movies that are like that where there are particular shots you can pull out and be like, this is a poster, this is a poster, this is a poster. For big movies like this, I really dig that. I love Deadpool, and I love Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Just he makes it really worth watching. But yeah, Avengers is my vote.
I agree with the guy who said Avengers was boring. But I loathe Deadpool as a movie and as a character, and I find him. I think he outstays his welcome after 5 minutes, so I'm going with the Avengers on that one.
All right, so the Avengers will win that one. The Avengers will take over Deadpool and move on.
Blake playing contrarian again, or Avengers.
I don't like Avengers either.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Number 3 seed, Guardians of the Galaxy, versus the number 14 seed, Thor Ragnarok. Andy, I will let you kick this one off.
Fuck. Okay. It's after dark. It's after dark, so I can say fuck. So okay. Like, this is tough, man. Guardians of the Galaxy is so much fun, and I think the thing that I like about Guardians of the Galaxy so much is that it's one of those, I say this and I don't mean it insulting, one of those B-tier titles that people didn't really celebrate until the movie came out. And I think that kind of shows the power of these characters and kind of the power of Marvel's storytelling to make you care about characters that you don't really know all that well. But on the other hand, after Thor: The Dark World kind of lowering people's Thor expectations, to have Ragnarok come around and just be a totally badass movie directed by Taika Waititi, who is so cool. Oh, shit, guys. You know what? Let's swing big just because of how they include. Oh, but Guardians of the Galaxy has an awesome soundtrack. I'm gonna waste 20 fucking minutes of
Do we
this
need
thing.
to count you down, Andy?
Nope. Thor Ragnarok.
All right.
Yeah, this is easy. It's Thor Ragnarok. It felt like this fresh kick of energy that the series needed. So I'm going with that one.
Yeah, Thor Ragnarok completely changed the Thor character. I think the first Thor and the second Thor are almost unwatchable at this point in the MCU. Thor Ragnarok made me like Thor for once. And like Andy said, the soundtrack for Guardians is great, but I think Thor Ragnarok also has a great soundtrack. Taika shoots that movie beautifully. There's at least 2 or 3 shots throughout it that look like a painting. Like I would frame that on my wall. Guardians of the Galaxy suffers from not having a good villain. It ends with a dance-off, which I think is funny. But I actually want a threat. I think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 does the threat and the character development and combination better. And I think Thor Ragnarok is just a perfect comic book movie. So I'm going to go with Thor Ragnarok.
I am going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy, only because Thor Ragnarok does not exist in the MCU without Guardians of the Galaxy setting that tone. So, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hey, I'm going to go with Thor Ragnarok. Guardians was great, but Thor, like after those, yeah, like you said, Casey, those first 2 are hard to rewatch, and yeah, they're just boring compared to Thor Ragnarok.
I think I've only seen Ragnarok twice, and I've watched Guardians at least 6 times. I agree, Ronan's a shit character. No one gives a shit what he's going to do.
Excuse me?
They take him out, no problem. But
Talking about the Accuser?
that's what I'm talking about.
More like the loser.
I'm going to give it to Guardians just for the fact that that movie is so rewatchable. I could watch it right now. Skip the show, go watch the movie.
All right, your vote
Guardians
doesn't matter anyway. Ragnarok moves on.
Where the points are fake and the votes don't count.
Yes. All right, we are down to our last matchup of this first round. We have the number 6 seed, the original Iron Man, versus the number 11 seed, the Crow. So Blake, I'm gonna let you go first here.
I think when I watch comic book movies, I think The Crow is one of the few movies that actually like feels like a comic book, and it has this weird twist of fate where the main actor who died during the production comes back to life. Comes back to life on screen in the way that he does in the story, and it has a killer soundtrack. So this is a no-brainer. It's The Crow.
All right.
Should have seen it in theaters. Just saying. That was awesome.
So yeah, the first Iron Man obviously kicked off the MCU. Robert Downey Jr. will forever be known as Iron Man, Tony Stark. But The Crow, I think, is, like Blake said, it's just a perfect adaptation to the screen. Brandon Lee just crushes it in that performance. The almost like meta aspect, like you said, of the character coming back to life and having Brandon Lee portray that character after the tragedy that happened on set, it adds a different aspect to it. And it's a perfect revenge movie, too. So I'm going to go with The Crow as well.
Iron Man, I watched recently. I don't know when's the last time you guys watched Iron Man, but talking about not holding up, that movie does not hold up. So I am going to go with The Crow also. But also I just wanted to mention that I see on this sheet here that The Crow has an 81% audience rating. Is that accurate?
It's 81 or 90.
It's 80. It's like 80. It's low
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Are the people like?
I don't know why, but
All right.
Some people are stupid.
Derek. That's okay. I'm changing the 81 to 100 right here.
There you go.
The curl.
All right, Garrett.
I'm gonna go with Iron Man. I disagree with everything Marvin just said. I think it still holds up, and I'm entertained the whole way through, even into the end credits when you hear the Iron Man song for the second time in that movie.
Yeah, on the nose.
I'm not even gonna lie. I haven't seen The Crow, so I can't say what's good and what's not. So it's gotta be Iron Man. There's only one way.
Hey, by the way, also, he knew this movie was on this list, and I told him it was on Netflix and to watch it. He didn't even
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Wasn't told that.
go back to our podcast
Yeah.
and talk about it.
All right, Mr. Andy.
Oh, so this comes down to me, huh?
Down to the fat dude.
All right. So, earlier I said that only 2 movies in the MCU got a golden avocado. One of those was Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The other one was the first Iron Man. I think Robert Downey Jr. is absolutely spectacular in this movie. I love this movie. However, it is not The Crow. Growing up in that era, kind of experiencing that whole scene, the whole thing kind of firsthand through the news and stuff, the tragedy of him being killed during the production of this movie, and then finally seeing that movie and how magical and dark and just like nothing I've ever seen before. I still think The Crow is absolutely incredible. This was a tough one because, like I said, Iron Man I really enjoy, but it's not The Crow. The Crow will always hold a very special place in my heart. So,
Do you remember, did the soundtrack come out like 6 months before the movie?
yes, yes, it did. Like the soundtrack led the way. Yep, and people were playing it like crazy. Stone Temple Pilots, I think The Cure is on there, 9 Inch Nails. It is just like, 1990, at 1990s gold. As a teenager in the 90s, there was nothing greater. So, yeah, I vote for The Crow. I love it.
All right, The Crow moves on and upsets Iron Man. All right, let's move on to the second round, and we're gonna kick it off with maybe the toughest choice in the whole pick. We have the number 1 seed. We got the number 1 seed, The Dark Knight, versus the number 9 seed, Logan. Marvin, I'll let you start this one.
Want me to start
Yep.
this? So I saw this one after we picked the first 2, and I've been looking at it, and so in Logan, the only scene I don't like is when he fights himself on the farm. And Dark Knight, I feel like the Dark Knight's good all the way, so we're gonna go Dark Knight. But hold on a second here. But but Logan feels like a better movie. Dark Knight.
All right, so we got second back there. I'm also going to go with The Dark Knight. Logan was a great conclusion to a character arc as a standalone movie. The first time watching it, loved it. Second time on the rewatch, it was there's a lot of slow spots that didn't keep me entertained all the way throughout, and Dark Knight did every single time.
I'm a huge fan of Wolverine, but I've only seen Logan the one time, and I can never get over the fight between him and himself. I have to give it to The Dark Knight. This movie still carries on 11 years later to be an amazing film, an amazing Batman adaptation with the villains. I think to give it to Logan would be a disservice to The Dark Knight.
All right, Andy.
I'll make it real fast. Dark Knight.
Well, I guess it's moving on. I want a coin to flip because I don't want to choose between these two.
It doesn't matter.
Do
anyway,
Two-Face. I like it.
I've seen The Dark Knight more. I'm going to choose that one by a fine margin.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dark Knight for the win. Like both Marvin and Alex said, Logan versus Logan is the worst part of that movie and made me not want to watch it again, honestly.
I got flashbacks of X-Men Origins during that.
Yeah. And
I did like the semi-trucks that drive themselves, though. That's pretty cool. Those are the 2 moments I remember from that movie.
Dark Knight moves on. Next up, we got the number 4 seed, The Winter Soldier, versus the number 12 seed, 300. Garrett?
I'm going to go with Captain America Winter Soldier. One of my favorites of the MCU. 300 is a great movie and a great adaptation. But Captain America Winter Soldier, there's just something about it that I love watching every time it's on.
Is Frank coming back? Probably.
I'm not gonna waste your time. Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Same. Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's kind of like we gotta move relatively quickly. So yeah, Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Captain America.
Yep, Captain America.
You know what? Captain America.
Okay. All right, Winter Soldier moves on to the final four. All right, next we got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the number 2 seed versus the number 7, the Avengers. Alex?
You know what? I have nothing for Avengers right now when it goes up against this movie. I saw it the one time. I was so impressed. Spider-Verse is the one to lead. It's the winner.
Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse.
All right, Andy?
Same.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah? All right.
If we make up time by me just saying same over and over again, I'll waste more time towards the end.
So, Blake, you went with Spider-Verse?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, I think Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best animated films and one of the best comic book films. And like I said, I don't think the Avengers holds up as well as I want it to, for as much as I do love that movie. But, yeah, Spider-Verse for the win.
I'm going to go with that, too, but the title's too long to fit into these.
Just write Spider-Man.
So I wrote the Nick Cage movie. Does that work?
Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, 100%.
All right, clean sweep there. Number 14 seed, Thor Ragnarok versus the number 11, The Crow. Andy, we'll let you start this one off.
I'll take a little second longer to say goodbye, Thor Ragnarok. You have served us well, but for me, right now, it's still going to be The Crow.
I'm going to ride the Crow out the rest of this thing, so that's my pick.
Spoilers for the rest of your picks there. I think Thor Ragnarok is a great movie, but I love The Crow so much. Like this movie it's a perfect comic book adaptation, and yeah, I got to go with The Crow.
I'm going to go with Thor Ragnarok. I'm going to be honest, I watched The Crow for this thing. And so Thor Ragnarok I'm going to go with. I feel like The Crow, I can watch that, and it's badass, but also I can feel depressed. Or I can watch Thor and laugh, so I'm going to go with laughing today.
I think I would agree with that. I'll go with Thor. It's been a very long time since I've seen The Crow, and I do remember leaving that while I was a kid, so I was pretty horrified, but also, yeah, it was depressing. So, Thor Ragnarok.
And you didn't even hand him the mic. He said he's never seen The Crow, so obviously it's going to be Thor for him.
Thor.
So that's a split.
That is a split. So the first one of the matchup.
It's a split.
So, yeah, we're going to leave it up to the audience now to pick the winner. Show of hands for Thor Ragnarok. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, The Crow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I gave you the room by
6.
Did you pick this? 6 and 6? Where's the
He
tiebreaker?
gave us the room, so The Crow moves on.
I love that pull that man had.
Yeah, we want to say thank you, sir. Yeah.
power corrupts.
All right.
Too much power, guys.
We are now in the final four. Number 1 seed, The Dark Knight. Number 4 seed, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. So I don't even know where we're at. Marvin, you can go ahead.
I mean, this Nick Cage bracket was easy for me.
That's for next year.
I did fill it out already, by the way. So, Dark Knight, Captain America 2. I feel like The Dark Knight. I do like this movie, but also I feel a grudge towards this movie because they kind of ruined DC movies after that because people thought that it needed to be that. So I'm gonna go with Cap 2. Mostly because I like his costume in Cap 2. So.
Yeah, don't you mean Captain America, the Winter Soldier?
Can't judge something on a costume.
I'm going to go with the Dark Knight. I mean, it gave us Heath Ledger as the Joker. Yes, a lot of movies compare it I mean, DC anyways is trying to be the Dark Knight, but I don't blame it for that. So one of the best films that I've ever seen, and Cap 2 is great. The costume's a little weak, so Dark Knight.
Winter Soldier has some of the best fighting I've seen.
Alex?
Winter Soldier all the way.
There we go.
The Dark Knight.
Dude in the Batman shirt. Come on.
Yeah, of course, courtesy.
Showing my card.
I am also going The Dark Knight.
Brad.
All right. This honestly could have been the final two. Honestly, I think we could all agree with that. These are two of the best ones. Like Alex said, it has probably the best fighting, at least in the MCU, maybe Marvel movies in general, comic book movies altogether. But it doesn't have Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Well, if it did, it wouldn't be Captain America.
But could you imagine?
Heath Ledger as Barack the Leaper. There we go.
I'm going to go with Dark Knight for the win. So, Dark Knight, we'll move on to the finals. All right, well, let's go to our next matchup. Number 2 seed, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse versus the number 11, The Crow.
You all know this one.
Garrett?
You want to know? No. I'll tell you if you want to know. It's Spider-Verse.
For the same reason as my last argument, it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, not only does it make me feel good by the end of that movie, best animation that I've seen, best Spider-Man movie in a really long time. I mean, I like the newer ones, but this one's really true to the Spider-Man character and Miles Morales. So.
Oh, did you say the best Spider-Man movie seen in a long time? The Spider-Man movie comes out every other year.
Yeah, but it is the best one in a long time. Far From Home was terrible.
Homecoming you didn't like?
Shut up. Spider-Verse. Again, same reason. Haven't seen Crow, but I got to give enough credit to Spider-Verse that if Sony can make every Spider-Man movie as good as this, I would have been okay with the move.
Feel free to disagree with Derek. No, really, seriously, I'm so pro, but
I'm agreeing with you on this one. Yeah, this is a really tough one for me because of The Crow in my heart. But man, Spider-Verse is incredible. So yeah, Spider-Verse is my pick for this round.
I love Spider-Verse. It's great, but The Crow pisses on its grave. So
All right, do I want to play contrarian here and just go with The Crow or go with my heart?
it doesn't matter.
Actually, it does matter
Oh, does
because
it?
Marvin has a pick here.
Oh well, no.
Yeah. I don't want to give Marvin that power, so Spider-Verse is my pick.
It has Nick Cage in it, so Spider-Verse would have won.
All right.
By the way, also, though, Spider-Man to Spider-Verse, I could see people watching 20 years from now and still being amazed by it, and The Crow's kind of a little bit dated. So.
All right, we are down to our final two. It's the number 1 and the number 2 seed. All right, number 1, The Dark Knight versus the number 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Since we bought some time, Casey, can I say something really quick?
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
'Cause
I want everybody to explain their picks
I've
on
got time
this
to
one.
stretch. All I'll say quickly is, for me, it's really cool that this came down to Batman and Spider-Man because, for the longest time, Spider-Man was Marvel's iconic character, and I think now with the MCU, that's debatable whether or not it's Spider-Man or Iron Man. But Batman is the one, the DC character.
It's still Spider-Man.
Yeah. So
I think Iron Man's like up there.
Yeah. So I think this is really cool that it's Batman versus Spider-Man, Marvel versus DC at the very, very end. So.
Do you want to kick it off, Andy?
Oh, fine. Okay. Yeah. I love Into the Spider-Verse. I cannot say that enough. And I love it so much that looking at it in retrospect, it's like this should have been my number 1 movie of the year. As much as I loved Three Identical Strangers, I think Spider-Verse is the one that I will watch over and over and over again from last year. But Heat with superheroes, I think the Dark Knight is operating on a whole different level. And yeah, I wore the Batman shirt tonight as I figured it would be on the list, but I didn't look at the list ahead of time. I didn't want to. But I think The Dark Knight is operating a whole different level. You've got Christopher Nolan, who is just kind of at the peak of his cinematic powers before they somehow magically disappeared by the time The Dark Knight Rises came around. But I think The Dark Knight is awesome and a really well-told story and just a beautiful work of cinema. So, yeah, The Dark Knight will get my vote.
Yeah, I'm also going with The Dark Knight. I feel like when it came out, the whole thing was heightened by Heath Ledger's death, and everyone was talking about this performance that was one for the ages. And it was kind of like this bomb went off culturally with the movie. And I love Spider-Verse. I almost cried watching Spider-Verse. I think it's amazing. But I think The Dark Knight just kind of just broke the mold for superhero movies when it came out.
Yeah, The Dark Knight is a fantastic movie, and so is Spider. Like, there's no real loser here, honestly. But there has to be a winner. The Dark Knight is led by that great Heath Ledger performance. Where I would give it a knock is it kind of goes on a little too long. You honestly could have cut the Two-Face stuff out at the end, and Spider-Verse doesn't have anything where you can take an entire sequence out of the movie. Spider-Verse is the only comic book movie to ever make me cry. That What's Up Danger scene is just beautiful. I never liked the Miles Morales character. I never really understood him until this movie, but now I get it now. I understand this character. And we haven't even talked about the meta aspect to the opening of Spider-Verse, where he does the finger points from Spider-Man 3. Like, it was hilarious. And I love that this is kind of a sort of continuation of the Raimi Spider-Man movies. And, yeah, I got to go with Spider-Verse for this one.
The Dark Knight we've talked about over and over again. That's a good performances in it. I do feel also, Casey, I'm glad you said that. It does a little bit slow. There's a couple of points when you could have taken some stuff out. Spider-Verse is, from beginning to end, a movie that people saw and were like, I think this changes the game in terms of animation, what we have to live up to in the future, whereas The Dark Knight, people were like, saw that, and I don't know, it just felt like it was trying to live up to good movies, where Spider-Verse tried to be its own thing, so I'm going to pick Spider-Verse.
This one's a real tough one for me, but I am going to give it to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I love The Dark Knight, and I love the Dark Knight trilogy altogether, but with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, yes, it does tap into that Raimi-verse for Spider-Man, which I grew up on, and my first superhero movie, besides the old Superman, Batman movies, in theaters was Spider-Man. So growing up, kind of reliving that, and then seeing this character that I read in the comics, Miles Morales, and seeing his origin play live on the screen, like, people had wanted Miles Morales forever, and it was finally done, and it was done greatly, and you got Spider-Verse characters from different universes. How cool for an animated movie to do that.
Also, Spider-Verse had a Post Malone song, and Dark Knight didn't, so.
All right, it comes down to Alex.
Well, it really doesn't matter, right?
No,
Isn't
it's
No, it does.
So you can decide
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize. I wasn't
Well,
paying
you can
attention
tie
very
it,
well.
or you can make Spider-Verse win.
Yes.
No, it won't be a tie for me. But the only thing for me is that this is so hard to compete a live-action film to an animated film, where this animation blows my mind, and to see how they designed these characters, to see how much love and attention went into this, I'd be a fool not to choose Spider-Verse. And I could watch this movie daily and still want to see more, and see more things I haven't seen before. So Spider-Verse all the way.
All the way. So that is our number one comic book movie of all time, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
And it proves, once again, Nick Cage won this
Nick
bracket.
Cage wins. Yes. Yes.
There we go.
I
Saw that Rubik's Cube
like
again,
you
too.
said, there's not really a loser here because I feel like this movie is incredible, and I think definitely it is a video comic book, and it deserves to be celebrated, hoisted upon the highest pedestal, because it is just something remarkable. So yeah, good job, guys. Well done. Good to pick. Good
That
picks.
was fun. Thank you, guys from Wednesday Comics, for being on. Where can everybody find you? Just on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
WednesdayComics.com. You can subscribe to our podcast. Just go there. Actually, it'll take you directly to the page on Anchor, and you can subscribe there. By the way, I came down to Face Off and Bad Lieutenant on my Nick Cage brackets, and I cannot decide, so I'm going to leave that up for everybody.
Face Off for the win.
Vote Face Off?
Yes, Face Off. And Andy from Fat Dude Digs Flicks, thank you so much for being on. Where can everybody find you?
Thank you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Just do a search for Fat Dude Digs Flicks. I review every movie I watch, which has gone down considerably since I've started a new job. You can also find me on my podcast, Fat Dude Digs Flicks, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever podcasts are found, and the YouTube channel, Fat Dude Digs Flicks. My next video will hopefully go up sometime next week about my 5 favorite cult movies. Not movies about cults, but cult movies like the Midnight Madness movies that you can see in theaters.
I thought you were talking about Wicker Man. So.
Wicker Man, Midsommar, and what did we talk about? The Sacrament, The Invitation, stuff like that. Those are good cult movies, but these are cult movies, so it's different.
All right, and this has been Backlot 605. Blake, thank you again for being here.
Yeah, it was fun.
And you can find Backlot 605 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and backlot605.com. And thank you so much for SiouxperCon for having us. This was a ton of fun. And if they want us back next year, Nicolas Cage draft. We're going to do it. Yes.
And whatever professional wrestling, sports entertainment superstar that comes to town next year, I will call him or her out on Twitter as well. Maybe they'll show up next time. You may have the ass, Billy Gunn, but
Andy.
you don't have the balls. Oh, shit.
You can't talk shit about Billy Gunn right now. All right. This dude, okay, he just went and saw a kid with cancer, and then his son had to wrestle, and you're still going to talk shit about the guy who may be the bigger man in the room, and I mean that physically right now. Did you not see? The man is a goddamn dinosaur. He's a goddamn dinosaur. All right? I worked my ass off to bring in Billy Gunn. He probably hears me right now. God damn it, Andy! Got me worked up after
Here he comes.
He's coming.
I bet if he comes through that door and heard you say that, your butt would be
This is officially the 3rd time I've been on this podcast, and it hasn't been in 6 months.
Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Eccles.
Fine, Charlie, bring me Bart.
Nobody looks like that. Nobody looks like that. I am better looking than Marty Jannetty, Andy.
I'll take it.
All right, that's it. Thank you all for coming. That was a lot of fun.